Lübbe Audio.
Unbound, Colors of Love, written by Kathryn Taylor, narrated by Amelia Skye. I'm so nervous that my hands are shaking. To stop others from noticing, I've been keeping them buried in my lap, or play absent-mindedly with my seatbelt buckle, snapping it open and closed. We're almost there. It's not long to go now. At last. Miss, you need to keep your seatbelt fastened. We've started our descent. The flight attendant, who seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, is tall, blonde, tanned, and incredibly thin. She points at the illuminated sign on the console above our heads. I nod quickly and reinsert the metal latch. She doesn't notice my apology, but smiles briefly at the man sitting next to me in the window seat. He looks up from his newspaper and, as he does whenever she comes by, beams warmly at her. Then she goes on her way. The man watches her go. When he notices that I'm looking at him, he frowns reproachfully and gives me an angry look, as if it were a crime to annoy the flight attendant, before immersing himself in his newspaper again. I think it's the first time since we took off from Chicago that he's really noticed me at all. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though, since I don't really care whether he finds me attractive or not. It's just frustrating somehow, because even if I did find him attractive, I wouldn't stand a chance against the tall blonde. As usual. I'm the exact opposite of her, short and pale. Well, actually, I'm blonde too, but a strawberry blonde, more of a redhead than a blonde, with the emphasis on the red. That's actually the only striking thing about me. But I have that kind of redhead coloration that makes me go as red as a lobster in the sun and never really tan. So frankly, it's a distinguishing feature I wish I didn't have after all. My sister Hope always tries to see the bright side of things by saying I look like an English rose. But she's probably just trying to make me feel better because she herself is one of those golden-haired, tanned beauties who make a much stronger impression than I do on men, just like the one in the seat next to me. I'm watching him surreptitiously out of the corner of my eye. Actually, he's rather good-looking. Dark hair, nicely groomed, with a well-tailored suit. He took his jacket off at the beginning of the flight, and when he lifts his arms up, I can smell the sweat beneath his aftershave. But luckily, I won't have to put up with it much longer because we'll soon arrive. My hands begin to play with my seatbelt buckle again. I've forgotten the man in the window seat, and instead am staring at the blue fabric of the seat back in front of me. My heart starts beating faster again because I'm so nervous. I'm finally on my way to England. I can't quite believe it yet. It's my first trip abroad. Well, except for a week's vacation in Canada with my family when I was 13. But that doesn't count. And this time, it's not just for a few days, but for 3 whole months. I heave a deep sigh. I was sure that it was going to be a great experience, but the fact that I am now so far away from everything I'm used to is making me feel a bit scared. It's going to be fine, Grace, I tell myself soothingly. Of course it will be. Didn't you hear what the flight attendant said, love? You need to keep your seatbelt fastened. The nice old lady in the aisle seat has jolted me out of my reverie. She pats my hand affectionately as I hurriedly fasten my seatbelt again. She looks at me questioningly. Are you really that nervous? I bite my bottom lip and nod. I'd love to tell her the whole story again, all about my journey and what's in store for me at my destination. But I've already kept her awake listening to it for the past few hours, so I keep quiet. She told me that she could never sleep a wink on planes anyway. But perhaps that's just her British politeness, and she's actually really tired and thinks I'm out of my mind. Her name is Elizabeth Armstrong, and she's from London. She's just been to visit one of her 3 sons who lives in Chicago, but she's very happy to be on her way back home now. I know even more about her than that. Actually, I know everything about her. How many grandchildren she has, 3, which is far too few in her opinion. That she doesn't like flying, who does, and that she misses her husband, who died 8 years ago. He died very suddenly of a heart attack. His name was Edward. Planes are cramped and transatlantic flights are long, which makes it impossible not to get to know each other well, if you are a talkative kind of person, and not an antisocial type obsessed with blondes, like the sweaty guy in the window seat. So, Elizabeth Armstrong knows everything about me, too. That my name is Grace Lawson, that I'm 22, majoring in economics at the University of Chicago, and that I'm on my way to London because I got an unbelievably monumental, totally inconceivable lucky break. Because I got the highly coveted internship at Huntington Ventures, which I had pinned all my hopes on. I don't even know how many times during the long flight I had recited the company's profile, which I now know by heart, to my patient neighbor. That the company has been around for 8 years, and that in that time, it had developed into one of the most successful investment firms in the world, and that their success is largely thanks to the company founder, Jonathan Huntington, and his innovative and very impressive idea, namely bringing together patents and fresh ideas in the fields of technology, industry, and commerce with the right financial backers to create profitable new products and projects. To be perfectly frank, I'm also very eager to meet the man behind it all, Jonathan Maxwell Henry Viscount Huntington, a member of the British aristocracy, always busy expanding his various business enterprises and, according to the local tabloids, one of England's most eligible bachelors. I showed Hope a picture of him I'd found in a magazine, and she thought he looked handsome, but very arrogant. And she's right about that, but that's hardly surprising. If I were as successful as he, maybe I would be arrogant too. I remember that photo well. He was with 2 beautiful, glamorous women, models with perfect, scantily clad bodies draped all over him, worshipping him. But neither of them was his girlfriend, if what was said in the accompanying article is true, because he doesn't have one. And he's not married either, which comes as a surprise to me because, with his dark hair and striking blue eyes, he really is incredibly good-looking. Why is such an attractive man still unattached? I heave another sigh. It's not your problem, Grace, I remind myself. You probably won't even meet him. After all, he's the head of the company and will hardly have time to meet every intern personally, even if they have come from a long way away. Is someone going to pick you up from the airport then? Elizabeth Armstrong sounded quite concerned. It takes me a moment to get back to reality. No, I'll take the subway into town, or get a taxi. If I have to take a taxi, it will make a big dent in my savings. It's my plan B, just in case the subway thing goes totally wrong. I just hope that I can get my bearings quickly, get on the right subway, and get to my destination on time. Otherwise...